Dust off the pages of automotive history, and you'll find Ken Miles not just as the sharp-tongued Brit who nearly claimed the racing Triple Crown in 1966, but as a relentless tinkerer whose hands-on genius often clashed with the suits upstairs. Picture him in the dim glow of Shelby American's Riverside workshop, sleeves rolled up, cigarette dangling from his lips, as he pores over blueprints for a deceptively simple engine that Ford's brass hoped would quietly upend the superspeedway status quo. Born in 1918 in Birmingham, England, Miles was no stranger to defying odds. Apprenticed at Wolseley Motors by 15, he dodged school to wrench on engines, then stormed Normandy as a tank commander in World War II, where the thunder of armored beasts ignited a lifelong obsession with mechanical fury that carried him stateside in 1952, first tuning MGs for the Southern California distributor before graduating to Porsches and custom specials that carved his name into SCCA lore with 38 wins in 44 starts between 1958 and 1963. It was Carroll Shelby who spotted the fire in Miles's eyes during those early Cobra tests, pulling him into the Ford fold in 1963 amid Henry Ford II's vendetta against Enzo Ferrari, a corporate grudge match that poured millions into the GT40 program, with Miles as the unsung engineer driver fine-tuning everything from chassis geometry to brake fade, his unfiltered candor earning him as many enemies in Dearborn's glasshouse as allies on the track. By 1966, Ford's total performance era was in full swing, their 427 V8s dominating Daytona and Sebring, but whispers from the NASCAR paddock revealed cracks. Chrysler's 426 Hemi was clawing back ground on the high banks of Atlanta and Charlotte, its hemispherical heads gulping air like a jet turbine, while Ford's pushrod Big Block struggled with valve float above 6,500 RPM, overheating on long runs and cracking blocks under sustained boost. Reports from period hot rod magazines pegged Hemi reliability at 95% finish rates versus Ford's 82, forcing Dearborn's engineers to scramble for a homologation-compliant alternative that could slip under NASCAR's 305 cubic inch displacement cap for production engines without alerting Bill France Sr.'s eagle-eyed inspectors. Enter the Ford 300, a 4.9-liter inline-six born in 1965 as the workhorse heart of F-Series trucks and Econolines, its cast-iron block, 7-main bearing backbone, turning 170 gross horsepower stock, with a torque curve as flat as Kansas from 1,800 RPM, a design philosophy rooted in tractor-pulling durability rather than drag-strip sprints, yet ripe for Miles's subversive touch. He saw in its long-stroke crank and gear-driven camshaft a canvas for forbidden alchemy, boring it out fractionally to 305 cubes while blueprinting the heads for oversized valves, swapping the log manifold for a custom Tri-Y exhaust that scavenged gases like a vacuum, and crowning it with a wholly 600 CFM 4-barrel tuned for mid-range punch, dyno sheets from Shelby's logs suggesting 285 horses at 5,800 RPM and 320 pound-feet that pulled like a diesel without the drama of V8 harmonics. This wasn't brute force, it was surgical precision. Miles, arguing in internal memos, later leaked to Circle Track that the Six's inherent balance reduced vibrations that plagued V8s on bumpy ovals, allowing softer engine mounts and lighter flywheels for quicker revs, a hypothesis backed by wind tunnel data showing the inline layout's lower center of gravity aiding cornering speeds by 2% over the wider FE blocks. The plan crystallized in spring 1966, post-Sebring triumph, as Ford eyed the Grand National Series' intermediate tracks like Riverside and Ontario, where torque ruled over top-end Howell. Miles prototyped the mill in a Fairline hardtop, stripping 200 pounds from the chassis with aluminum panels and a quick-change rear, then logging 150-mile stints at Willow Springs that outpaced stock 289s by 3 seconds per lap. His gravelly voice crackling over the radio, "She's breathing now, Carroll. Feels like cheating without the guilt." But guilt arrived swiftly. NASCAR's tech rules, penned by France to foster stock car parity amid the Big Three's arms race, mandated engines mirror showroom specs within 5% deviation, and Miles's tweaks, offset bores for better quench, roller tip rockers from aviation surplus, pushed it into gray territory, Whispers from Chrysler's camp alleging Ford's truck motor evaded V8 specific fuel restrictions that capped carb jetting at 0.070 inches. The hammer fell at the July Ascot Park 300-miler, a California short track, where Miles nursed the Fairline to a provisional pole, its six-cylinder whale slicing through the V8 chorus like a buzzsaw, only for post-qualifying teardown to expose the anomalies. Heads ported beyond factory casts, crank lightened by 12 ounces per journal, violations that France deemed exotic modifications unfit for stock competition, slapping a $2,500 fine on Shelby American and sidelining the engine for the season, with a terse bulletin citing safety concerns over unproven balance at 6,000 RPM. Miles fumed in a letter to Ford exec Donald Frey, preserved in the Benson Ford Research Center, calling it politics dressed as prudence. Chrysler lobbies for Hemi exemptions while we get crucified for thrift, a sentiment echoed by contemporaries like Dan Gurney, who told Motor Trend the ban stemmed less from tech than terror. The 300's 25 miles per gallon efficiency on pump gas threatened to undercut the V8 establishment, potentially slashing development budgets as tracks like Daytona mold fuel mileage handicaps. The fallout rippled. Ford doubled down on the 427 for Le Mans prep, where Miles' second-place finish, robbed by team orders for a photo op 1-2-3, masked his growing disillusionment, confiding to wife Molly over late-night scotch that they clip your wings the moment you learn to fly. Post-Le Mans, with the 300 shelved, Miles pivoted to the J-Car prototype, a radical aeroshell blending GT40 DNA with wind-cheating camtail, its 427 heart tuned to 650 horses under his watchful eye. But on August 17th at Riverside's high-speed S's, disaster struck. A suspected suspension tweak from earlier lapping sessions triggered a violent liftoff, flipping the carbon fiber beast end-to-end in a fireball that ejected Miles at 140 miles per hour, his death at 47 silencing the garage forever and prompting Ford to scrap the J lineage for the safer Mark IV that clinched 17 victories. Conspiracy murmurs linger in gearhead forums, and AJ Bimes's Go Like Hell. Was the ban a prelude to sidelining Miles, whose independence irked Leo Beebe's PR machine, or mere coincidence in an era when 20 drivers perished on ovals? Official reports from the California Highway Patrol cite catastrophic failure in the rear wishbone, but Miles' son, Peter, now a vintage racer, maintains in 2020 interviews that rushed post-ban testing schedules skimped on prototypes. A view substantiated by Shelby's own testimony to the NTSB. Ken pushed because we had to catch up. Losing the 300 cost us months. The 300 itself endured, soldiering in trucks till '96 with over 500,000-mile legacies, its racing footnote inspiring aftermarket truck 6 builds that top 400 horses naturally aspirated, as seen in Jeevan Dalavalli's Brazilian drag Opalas, clocking 7s in the quarter. Yet for Miles, the ban encapsulated his tragedy. A visionary curtailed by the very machine he sought to master, his blueprints gathering dust while Hemis howled unchecked. Dive into the Shelby archives today, and you'll find annotated sketches of that inline beast. Miles' scrawled note in the margin, "Power isn't in the cylinders, it's in the will to use them." And that's something worth remembering when you next hear the straight-line growl of a Survivor 6, echoing the unbowed spirit of a driver who raced not just cars, but the rules that tried to tame them.